All right. Well, I'll get it started here, or does somebody else want to start at this time since I started the last one?
Doesn't matter to me.
Oh yeah.
Mm-mm. Jordan.
Austin.
I don't think we should put this in his hands.
Who, Jordan's?
Yeah.
I've been up for a minute.
He's been up for a minute. He's been dealing with me. We've repaired the transom on a boat.
Yeah. Okay.
So, well, welcome to another episode of Stormwater Creek.
Da-da-da.
Da da da. It's been a day and a half. We've been in the woods duck hunting. We duck hunted all day today. Shot a couple teal.
What are
Where's
you
my
looking
phone?
for? I don't know.
Dude, you get your head in the game.
Yeah.
I do need to get my head in the game. Sorry.
So, yeah, like Abe was saying, we duck hunted, came back. I did some cooking. They worked on the boat. We ate. We podcasted. He watched the football.
We did watch the football.
Now we're podcasting some more.
Yeah. So, the typical crews here, Brandon, Austin, Abe, and Jordan. And we also have Jared Walker from Midwest Mountain Hunter on Instagram. So, give him a follow. And, Jared, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're Arkansas by way of Michigan, right?
Yep. So, woman's got a great pull in your life, and I'm an Arkansas boy, but I do live in Michigan. So, I grew up in north central Arkansas, a mountain home. And man, I had a sportsman's paradise in my backyard. Never knew how good you have it until you leave, right? And I grew up. I mean, like the way probably a lot of folks do, doing the small game thing, right? Squirrels, rabbits. Back in the day, we still could run dogs on deer. We coon hunted. We did. That's how we used to pay for Christmas. Was like when the hides were still good, and we used to like coon hunt at night. We would, deer hunt during the day. We were chasing everything.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty much the way I grew up. And yeah, this year was my 30th anniversary for killing my first deer. So I think it was like this November was my third. Yeah, I was actually 7 years old when I took my first buck. So I started pretty young.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I've got a question right off the bat for you. So we've been kicking around the coon thing, right? Have you ever eaten a raccoon?
No. It's probably, and the thing is that it was the folks that I know that have done it back home. They were like, it's fairly oily and greasy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we keep hearing.
Yeah, and I think now with goodness gracious, you see some of the stuff like with Meat Eater and all the other guys, and like what you could probably do. I think that knowing what I know now, you could probably take it and pressure cook it down. You could do something like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And end up doing same way you would do probably like a squirrel or something, right? The meat and probably the texture is going to be fairly similar, but squirrel's obviously a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a lot oilier, as far as that goes.
Okay. Yeah. We've been kicking around that idea of raccoon. Just like, is it worth like just to try it?
It's fun. One thing is it's just something else that to extend the season, right? And to get you out. And at night too. If you get some good dogs, we always had Walker hounds, and that's what we would run and use. And we even we used mules and things like that, back in the day, and that was how we would access a lot of it. My grandpa and one of my uncles, they still do it, and they still got the coon hounds, and they hunt back home.
Wow. And that's a fascinating just like raccoons is they're just varmints as far as like corn thieves for a feeder or
Predators.
something,
Oh, yeah.
Turkey.
And I see them all the
Predator
time
control.
when I'm in the woods, like turkey hunting. Like, it's crazy how many coons I see in the woods up here. Yeah, they're thick. They just don't get hunted. They do not get hunted up here. They're thick.
Yeah, that's we've seen a couple in the woods, but we see a lot of armadillos.
Yeah.
That's what I see more than anything
Oh, my
these days.
God.
Yeah.
An
Yeah,
armadillo's
I
always
got a
get me.
couple incriminating stories on armadillos that I won't, laugh
Yeah.
tell on this one. But I can tell you that whenever I moved north, I was like, you don't have the armadillos, but my gosh, when they invaded north central Arkansas, it was insane.
Yeah. Do you guys have any pigs up in Michigan?
The only pigs that are up here are ones that folks let loose, right?
Okay.
So you've got some guys that had some of those big kind of like game pens and stuff,
Yeah.
whatever, and they let out, right? But it's a non-native, Arkansas. If you go in the Boston Mountains, there are still a good bit of pigs in the Boston Mountains
Yeah.
of Arkansas. Yeah, you can still chase some down there. I missed one. Golly, it was probably 2008. I think it was like opening day of deer season, and I was sitting this kind of like up on a ridge overlooking like a river bottom, a lake, lake bed that kind of goes down, and I saw something coming through there. And I was like, "What in the world is that?" And it was black. So like, how your game eye, you recognize certain things. I was like, this one just didn't trigger. Something wasn't there, and it came up this ridge, and I look, and it was sticking up, and man, it was probably 400 yards away, but I pulled the trigger, and then the dust boiled, and I was like, well, that's my one shot I've ever had on the hog. That was it.
There's definitely no shortage of them here.
No, we're covered
No.
with them in Texas.
And that was one of those things, like, I was wanting to get down to Texas at some point to go after some hogs. It's just one of those things I've always wanted to do.
Well,
They're not going anywhere, so
we'll
won't
take
know.
we'll take you out hog hunting if you take us Arkansas elk hunting.
yeah.
How about, there you go. Yeah. So the elk hunting in Arkansas, I can tell you kind of, like segue into that.
Absolutely.
If like I said, before I left Arkansas, it was a pretty bill to pay, but I paid $1,000 and I got my lifetime hunting license. So every year I just go, they would send them in the mail, right? And I would get all my tags sent to me. And I would get, I think it's either 6 or 8 deer tags a year. I get 2 turkey tags that qualifies for bear. Now, and then I get my duck stamps, right? And all that, my fishing license, trout stamp, all those just come to me. So it definitely has paid for itself. Like when the first year away in Georgia, I came back and it was Thanksgiving. Came back home and I ended up getting a good little 8-point. Probably like a 120 class 8-point right there. We only had like a half a day to hunt, and my dad and I went in, and there was a piece of public land that bordered like a bunch of private, and we hiked in probably about 3 miles, got back in there, and we were rattling, and grunting and trying to catch, some bucks on that, or some does maybe on that, second cycle. And man, this buck came in pretty hard and ended up, shooting him at like 60 yards. And it was a pretty cool deal. So I looked at that right there, like, all right, it's already paid. It paid for itself, once. And then I had been applying for this elk tag probably for, I bet 15 years. Okay. And I think, it's got to be, because I was probably still applying when I was in college, and I've been out of school for, almost 15 years. I was able to apply as a resident, right? And the way this is allocated is there were 26 tags that are, come out of the draw of the public land tags. And then there are, I think, 3 or 4 more tags that are allocated. There's a big get together in Ponca at the Elk Education Center, and they draw 3 or 4 tags for folks that are present that day during that kind of like ceremony. So I just happened to be one of the lucky 26 out of several thousand, you know what I mean, that were putting in for the tag. And I ended up being the cow tag. There was only one bull tag in the unit, okay? And you got basically assigned a unit. There were 4, I think, units. And you get like, I think it was, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's basically how, and I had like unit 3, and the way this is set up is you've got the Buffalo River, which is actually it's our nation's oldest national river. It's a free, undammed, free flowing for about 135 miles. That starts in the Boston Mountains in northwest Arkansas and runs to into north central Arkansas, where it dumps into the White River. So the way these units are set up is they've basically got the sections, right, that are and along the river, north and south of the river, there is national forest land, right? And so basically what I was assigned was this Unit 3, and it was basically it was about, probably I'd call it around 12 river miles, okay? And it encompasses on both sides of it. And what I did was I just basically picked apart that unit, and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to come back and really set foot in the unit, I did the whole Google Earth and OnX Maps, right? And just started picking out spots that I thought would be good. And then we came in the day before season open, and we were able to scout that day before. So it was, it was quite an experience, but we thought that we were going to have to hike every single bit of it on those 10 miles. But, which we've done it in Colorado. We've done it, I've done it in Montana and places like that, but I wasn't expecting to have to do that in Arkansas. So I was like, man, this is going to suck. You know what I mean? And it was still warm enough that I was like, all right. And man, it was like, it had been cold and then it warmed back up. But man, we saw so many freaking snakes that day scouting that I was like, man, I hate snakes. You know what I mean? And it's like they were everywhere. God.
Yeah, I damn near stepped on a water moccasin the opening weekend of Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
So
Can't stand those things.
I'm with you.
They're no bueno. And we saw a rattlesnake, heard a rattlesnake up at Meredith, which was not fun.
No way. That was one thing about moving to Michigan. There is only one poisonous snake in the whole state, and it's very rare. And it's like this one rattler. That's it. And I was like, okay, I can deal with that. So.
Yeah, that's you can't deal with snakes. I can't. No.
I ended up my gaiters. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I'm wearing my hiking boots and everything, and so I ended up wearing my gaiters that I would wear for like the snow. So I'm like, whatever, because I knew I was going to end up walking through fields and junk like that too. I just didn't want to get completely soaked, but I was kind of glad I had them on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime the weather's decently warm in Texas, we all wear snake boots because there's so many of them up here.
I still have my snake boots. They're still sitting in the corner. You know what I mean? Because that was one of those deals like in Arkansas. Turkey season, man. There's snakes everywhere. You just knew that was the time, and you always. And then early season deer, like bow season, you for sure knew you were going to probably deal with those dang things.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We've I didn't see a lot of snakes this year though. It was kind of a weird year for that, but
essentially the reason we have public land so much is because it's in floodplains.
Yeah.
Like Somerville and Grapevine and all these areas around lakes. You just know it's just moccasins and water snakes everywhere. Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of them before, but this year was a little different. I didn't see as many this year, so I was fortunate not to be inundated with snakes in our deer spots this year, and it got cool.
That's good.
So.
Did you guys get a bunch of that rain that they got down south, like towards San Antonio? Did you guys get all that stuff too, or no?
Last week or throughout the year?
No, back during the season. Yeah. I know, some of the guys I talked to, they get like just piles of rain.
Yeah, it's been raining like crazy down here. The water's up places where we were duck hunting was just completely like 4 feet. The water's up like 3-4 feet higher than it was when we started scouting for the season. A couple of our deer stands got flooded out this year. We had water basically up to them, and places where we had really good early season deer movement that just got flooded out and just blew it out for the season. So we were getting every day we had pigs or deer on camera, and then it just all this rain and it just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of spreads them out.
Yeah.
I mean, it displaces them. Yeah, that sucks.
So that's public land hunting, though, right?
It is, man. That's the way it goes. But yeah, so like this, and I mean, I can go into kind of like how the whole thing unfolded, into the hunt, and then I'll talk a little bit more too about like, what it looks like for, guys coming from Texas or something like that. You know what I mean? What are or anywhere else, you know what I mean? And what the opportunities look like. But we ended up, like I said, we did the scouting. I had like 10 or 12 spots all picked out on the map. And we literally got up that morning early, which was, the season was odd. The season was like a 5-day season that was open like Monday to Friday. Right. So a lot of times you get seasons open on a Saturday. This one wasn't like that. So we got in on Sunday and we spent all day scouting. And first spot we got into, I was like, man, this looks like it could be pretty good. We started working around and we found it just looked like an elk highway. I mean, we found tracks. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. Definitely a good sign. And we ended up seeing some deer, that moved through while we were there. But we're like, all right. So we moved over. There was like, imagine, I'm trying to explain this for you guys, what the terrain is like there too. So most folks, you hear Arkansas, and if you ever hear the east side of the state, you're thinking it's flat, right? But obviously this is in the Ozark Mountains, and the river, I think, was right around 700 feet elevation. And then the hills up around there went up to, I think, around 2,200 feet. So you're getting a pretty good climb coming right out of there. And there are a lot of big steep bluffs, things like that. So what we were doing what I was hoping was I was going to be able to get up high and look down, but there was still a lot of foliage. And this is basically a hunt it was right around Halloween, right? So, but the leaves were still on pretty good. I mean, it was beautiful, but I mean, you just couldn't see. It was too thick, in the canopy and whatnot. So we hit all these spots, and we got down towards the end of the day on that Sunday, and we ended up going back, eating like a bowl of soup, and was like, all right, we got like one spot left that I want to hit, right? But I knew it was like you had to drive all the way around it. It was about a 45-minute drive to get around there. And we drove down in there, and we're going, and there was like it was kind of like some like ag bottoms, right? Or I'd call it an ag bottom, but there's these fields that were kind of like hay fields and wheat fields in the bottom, and they're all gated off, right? So it's basically like a walk-in area. So I parked my ride, and then I get out, and all of a sudden I just hear bulls screaming their heads off, right? And I'm like, holy crap, there they are, right? So there was it's called Richland Creek. The way it comes down meets the Buffalo, but Richland Creek's more like a river. So basically I crossed this thing, and I'm driving my Suburban, and I'm like pushing water with my bumper, you know what I mean? And it was coming up pretty good coming across this thing. And so I get to the other side, and I get out, and I ended up just, I had like my harness, on. I ended up grabbing my camera and my tripod, and I just started hoofing it down there. And I can just hear this, and I mean, we're talking just screaming, right? And I'm like, geez, it's happening. So we ended up, I hoofed it down there, and as I'm getting closer, I look out, and I can just see this one bull, and he's like broken a little bit, and he's not that big, but I look, and he's just got this herd, like probably, 15, 20 cows, and he's just running them around. And I was like, holy smokes. And then I get up a little bit further and come up, and there's like an opening, and get into that opening, and it's kind of like you're sitting in this field, and you're looking down, and you've got this big, like, kind of, 2 or 3 fields looking, and you got this big backdrop with the high hills. And we look out there, and there are probably 40 to 45 elk all out in this field. And it is an absolute rut frenzy.
Oh, man.
There was one bull, and he was a 7-point bull, full like 7x7, 2 6x6s, a couple 5-point bulls, and then a whole pile of raghorn, cows everywhere. I mean, it's like mayhem, right? I'm looking. I mean, there's bulls fighting, and what's cool is I got it all on video too.
Oh,
Nice.
And so I ended up putting it on my YouTube channel, and I was just like, man, this is insane. You know what I mean? I was like, you just don't get this every day.
Oh,
like, this is the
sure.
full-on stuff. Like, this is the rut. You know what I mean? And they're going nuts. And you got the bull sitting there, one chuckling, and then you look and he just starts peeing all over the place. I'm like, these things are just like lost their minds, man. But we ended up watching those things for, I don't know, I probably got like 15 minutes of footage of just watching them go crazy. And they ended up just putting my binoculars on my tripod just so that we could start picking everything out. And while we were sitting there, the one guy in the unit that had the bull tag was there too. So they had come around the other end, and they were camped at a different area, and they had like mules and everything. So they were planning on basically trying to get back in as well. So here we are. There's a group of us. I don't know. There's probably like 6 or 8 of us all sitting here watching this happen. And you can, if you ever go watch the YouTube video, these old guys, man, they've been hunting together for probably 40, 50 years. And, man, they're pretty funny. But they were just giving everybody a hard time. And they were like, I think the guy was like, I know where you mother are going to be in the morning. And I was like, dang right I'm going to be.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
So I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I'm going to go where the elk are, and you better believe I'm
Well,
going to
that's too easy, so we're going to go to the backside of the mountain.
Go to the back 40.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, no, I'm going to be. I was like, it was hard to sleep that night. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, we pull out, and we're just like, and even all the way back to the vehicle, I'm just like, this is insane. I was like, I sure hope they're there in the morning. I hope they're there in the morning. And then, so we got up real early, and when we were hiking in, I ended up, the moon was pretty bright. So I ended up not even, I was able to not really even use my headlamp kind of walking in, and we got up. And as we're getting set up, you could hear 2 bulls sitting out in the dark. You could hear them just fighting, and they're still just rutting and screaming, and they're still in that same field. They'd stayed in there all night long, rutting in that field. So we got set up. My dad was sitting beside me. He's got the spotting scope, and then I've got my camera going, so that way we could film everything. And I ended up just laying down behind my gun, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what's legal shooting like? And I think it was like, okay, 7. I looked at like sunrise was like 7:01 legal shooting light. I'm like having to be like, okay, when's it legal? When's it legal? Because like this is all unfolding. Yeah, so basically, I'm sitting there, I'm like ranging, right, as it's getting light. I'm like, and it's hard, and honestly, it's like, as silly as it sounds, it actually was kind of hard because the bulls were kind of staying still, right? The cows are running everywhere, and I'm like, and here I am with the cow tag, and I'm like, and then you got one cow, she stops right in front of that big 7-point bull, and and of course I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I have to like look at that 7-point bull, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at it through my scope going, I'm like, I could totally take you right now, but I would go to jail.
How long, and what is the fine? Like, is it worth it?
Exactly. How much trouble would I be in?
Like, do you think they would understand? Think I taught my way out of this one?
Is this a maximum security?
When you've got an over 300-inch bull sitting there,
what would you have done?
Like,
Look,
yeah,
it would be foolish not to take it.
Yeah, look, sir, I just I couldn't.
Little jail time, whatever.
Oh, the ones with horns are boys.
Oh,
I must have had that backwards.
I must have had that backwards. My bad. Oh, well. So,
yeah.
I'm just going to get my horns and get out of here.
It identified as a cow.
It identified as a cow. It walked into the cow bathroom.
So I'm like, let's find a big cow. So I ended up just trying to pick out, like, like one of the biggest cows in the bunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then ended up getting lined up, and yeah, like once there was some young there were some calves and some other calves that were kind of like working through. So I basically had to make sure that obviously like with that many animals around, you want to make sure you get a good shot, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't screw up. You want to make sure that you're making the best shot you can. So yeah, I ended up, like I said, I was laying down prone, had a super steady rest, and yeah, I ended up smoking her at 515 yards, one shot, and yeah, it's pretty good.
Wow.
That's a shot.
That is a shot. We were talking about this earlier about just the shooting that distance is a trick we want to learn how to do. In Texas, we don't take many 500-yard shots. Most everything is 80, 100. If you're shooting over 100 yards, most of the time it's you're in the West Texas somewhere.
Yeah,
you know?
Really depends on where in
and
Texas.
that's the thing we are here too. You know what I mean? Because if I take that gun, I took it deer hunting, but I'm like, it's completely overgun. You know what I mean? For doing most of the deer hunting that you're doing up here, it's one thing if you're sitting on like a Sendero, right? You got a big long corridor that you can lay down, big deal. You know what I mean? Yeah, shoot it. But yeah, it's just not always going to be like that. Mm-hmm. But it's not. This is something that I've been doing for years. You know what I mean? Like the long range, and I know it's I don't know, it's questionable, folks, with the ethics and everything else beside it, but this wasn't something that we just started yesterday, right?
Yeah, right.
I
mean, if you're confident you do it enough, that's a normal shot for you. It's
and
it's not like you were like, "Whoa, I shot 3,000 yards,"
Yeah, I've shot out consistently out to 1,600 yards.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God.
And shooting stuff like that, and that's practicing, not on game. You know what I mean? But whenever we go out elk hunting in Colorado, we'll go spend some time going out in the foothills, just bust some rocks. You know what I mean? And just getting that practice, and that's where you get better. You know what I mean? And then in Arkansas, we've got a 1,000-yard range that we shoot on. On my grandpa's land, and we've got it set up. So, we're used to ringing steel. Before we did steel, we used to shoot milk jugs. You know what I mean? It was basically our thing was if you can bust a milk jug first shot, you're in the vitals, right?
Yeah,
and that was our thing. It was you got to be consistent, you got to practice, and I spent a lot of time, laboring over all the little bitty intricate details to make sure that that I'm doing it. And when I took that shot, there was no doubt in my mind. You know what I mean? And I knew I watched the shot. I watched where it hit. You know what I mean? I saw it through my scope. So.
Wow.
What caliber were you using? What bullet?
That was a 30 Nosler that I built this year. That was a 212 grain Hornady ELDX, and I've shot it. That gun's done really well. So it shoots the 215 grain Burgers really well. I've shot the 230 grain Sierras with it, and those shoot well. But I wanted to try the ELDX bullet, on an animal, and man, it performed so well. It went through. I was trying to intentionally try to put it right because I wanted to get as much meat as possible, right? So I was trying to put it right behind the shoulder, get a good long shot, and I ended up clipping just a hair part of the front shoulder, and it put a good sized hole all the way through, and I found it buried underneath the hide on the outside. So it had mushroomed, it came out, and I had 60% weight retention even at that distance.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Crazy.
So it was
pretty solid.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was crazy. I think I realized that it still got hit with, what was it? I think I was still well over 2,000 foot-pounds of energy at that distance.
Yeah, that's a heavy bullet you're shooting.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much going to be. And before that, I was using a 7 Brum that I used for years, but I ended up burning that barrel out and taking that one off. So, and then I ended up switching that gun over to a 257 Weatherby. That's probably one of my favorite deer calibers. I think it's a 257 Weatherby. But
a 257.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I think there's just something special about the quarter bore, with a deer-sized animal, man. It's just I don't know. It's like Zeus throwing lightning bolts, man.
Yeah.
They're just out.
Wow. So, as far as Arkansas goes for somebody who would be from Texas,
Yeah.
you know, how obtainable would it be for, let's say that one of us or all of us wanted to go hunt elk in Arkansas next year as a non-resident? I mean, what would that picture look like?
All right. So I'm going to you guys will get the skinny on how this works, right?
Okay.
And, of course, now I'm about to ruin it for everybody because I'm going to tell you what happens. So if you're good.
Only our parents listen,
reading,
so it's okay.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, and I don't know how many people from Arkansas listen, but they're going to be like, fingers are up right now about it. So, there is a public land, private land tags. Okay, private land tags are on a quota system, right? So, but I'm almost certain that those private land tags, they're like done, like almost the first day or two, right?
Okay.
Now, there's a caveat, okay? There's what's called the core area, the core distribution area that they want to maintain the elk. So when I talked to the biologist, when I got mine tested, so a couple of years ago they found CWD in the herd, okay? So every game animal you have to take – so on the elk, yeah, so it was like crazy. Like they thought there was no way there was CWD, right? Yeah. And they didn't even think there was CWD in Arkansas at all. And then come to find out they found it in the elk herd. So when I asked the biologist about the game, the objectives, right, and how big they want to grow it, the herd could be much bigger. They said there's probably around 700 to 800 elk in that area of the state. And they get out. There's herd. They're not always on public land. They're on private. They're all over the place. But now here's the deal. Let's say that $350 tag that I was talking about, right? They get you those 6 deer and those two turkeys. If you're hunting near the core zone, right, and let's say you're outside of that and an elk comes across, and you can be on public land, but if the elk have migrated out of where they're supposed to be, you can use your deer tag to take an elk.
That's right.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah, man. So I just ruined it for everybody.
Well, so I had heard that. I read that in the rule book and called Arkansas, Fish and Game, and was like, am I reading this correctly? Is this true? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, I knew that couldn't be true. There's no way. And she was like, well, actually, you're right. If you are outside of, it's like 6 core zones, right? I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the core zone. If you're outside the core zone and the elk have migrated into an area outside the core zone, it's free for the taking, man.
What's the likelihood of that? Are you talking about that's probably never going to happen, or is that like something that people take those elk off of deer tags every year, kind of thing?
I think that it's basically built into their the management strategy.
Okay.
Right. Knowing that there's going to be some of those happen every year, right? They're based on the tag allocations. Like there's basically about 80 tags, call it, a year. Once you get past those 26 public land tags, you can obviously tell the vast majority of those are made up of private land, right? So these are hunters that probably have landowners who are running cattle and other stuff, who probably get kind of pissed off with the elk coming on and eating up all their freaking hay, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So those guys are getting a tag every year, and they're just basically filling their freezers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's possible. It's definitely possible, and you get up in there in some of those areas. Like I said, there's some really good deer hunting. There's some good bear hunting. Lots of turkeys. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of opportunities, and you guys are in Dallas, right? You're in the Dallas area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I looked and I said, okay, I was just looking at that area to get up to. Let's say you want to come over to the Ouachita National Forest in that part of the state, which is south of where I'm talking about. That forest is that's a 1.8 million acre forest. that basically goes right across the Oklahoma border into Arkansas. The area that I'm talking about, and where I primarily did a lot of my hunting, which was in north central northwest Arkansas, is the Ozark National Forest, and that's 1.2 million acres of public land that's wide open, right? And you can get back in there, and you can have. I loved it because to me it was like getting my mini Colorado fix. You know what I mean? I was able to hike in there, and I usually had pretty good success once I was able to get back away. You can easily get away from folks, right? Yeah. And have a good experience. You know what I mean? And usually see game, and I'm not gonna. There's some pretty good bucks that come out of there too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if they get a chance to grow old, then,
Right. Yeah.
And as far as black bears go, same kind of. I'm sure that's that kind of same area right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right in there too. So basically, you've got like the north zone and the south zone. So pretty much like I was talking about, that Ouachita National Forest is your south zone, the Ozark National Forest is your north zone, and there's a number that you can call for like Arkansas Game and Fish, and you basically call that number same way like if you're going to tag something. Pretty much everything's online now, but there's a number you call in that says, hey, if you're calling to check on the bear quota, press 1, right? And it's basically going to say the bear quota has not been met in the northern zone. It means you're free to take a bear until that quota is met. And sometimes that quota goes pretty late, honestly.
Yeah. Wow. Arkansas is intriguing to us, I think.
Yeah.
We've all been, we love to duck hunt, so obviously from a duck hunting perspective, but the elk, the black bears, deer, turkey, I think we're all kind of, Brandon hunts a lot in Oklahoma. And, I started hunting up in Oklahoma as well, kind of in the panhandle.
Right.
I was going to ask if in Arkansas, is the black bear quota statewide or is it county by county? Because I know in Oklahoma the black bear is thin enough at least that, like, if I hunt in Choctaw County, you can't shoot black bear, but if I go to Pushmataha County, I can shoot a black bear. I wonder if that's different.
Yeah, it's not by county. It's the whole zone, the whole area.
Okay.
So basically, it's multiple counties that incorporate, like in that northern tier and that southern tier zone.
All right, so it's multiple counties, or it's not necessarily like the whole
multiple,
state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got like up in the north, you got Washington County, Benton County, Sebastian, Polk, Franklin. There's like on over, like it's all in that, and we're talking, pretty mountainous area through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of opportunities, and I think from you guys, it's about a 6-hour drive. You know what I mean? And 6 to 7 would be probably like the long end. You know what I mean? If you were going way up on the other end, but pretty much you come up and because I think whenever I lived in Bentonville, I lived there for 10 years, and I could get down to Dallas in about 5 hours.
Yeah, that's like going to Amarillo.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's nothing. It's a lot closer than Arkansas than Colorado.
Yep.
Or New Mexico.
Yeah.
But,
for a hunter, that's very doable.
Yeah.
I drove 28 hours from, when I hunted in Montana last year, and when I left out, it was 28 hours straight coming home.
That's crazy.
Wow. And we're over here thinking Arizona's going to be a bad deal with like 14 hours.
Oh my God.
Half that time.
I can't wait to see you do that. I wanted to go on that hunt really bad this year.
Oh, you're not going to be able to?
No, we're not going this year.
Yeah.
I think we're going to.
Which one is that?
Over-the-counter mule deer hunt in Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I was there January of this year, and it was like, when the Coos deer rut was going on, and I'm just like, oh, man. I was on, like, Go Hunt, and I was looking at a couple. Oh, man.
How can I make this happen?
Units. I was like, I wish I had my bow.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh, so you were there for business, not leisure. You weren't there for the hunt.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're I'm looking forward to seeing that hunt take place for you and kind of seeing what we can get. But so you're also involved with BHA, and so are we down here.
Yeah.
We're all pretty active in the BHA community here in Texas. So, what have you guys been going on? What have you guys got going on up there?
You know, we've got a pretty good group of guys up here in Michigan. You know, I joined BHA whenever I was still in Georgia. There was no chapter. There was no Southeast chapter. There was none of it, right? And I ended up, because, I mean, I've been a public hunter for a long time, right? I mean, this is something that I just grew up doing. I mean, coming up to Michigan, it was great because we've got a good core group of guys, pretty active. We even had a pint night at Atwater Brewing back in August, and you had, you know, Senator Debbie Stabenow even came and was at our pint night.
Oh,
you know
wow.
what I mean? And yeah, I mean, so we're getting in front of like folks. We've got some very active people, and you know, making changes. You know what I mean? Getting involved. Obviously, there's always room to do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And right now, we're in a lame duck session right now as things are changing over because new governor, new secretary of state. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of folks going out with term limits, right? So they're trying to get a lot of stuff pushed through. And some of it's pretty frustrating right now because it's around wetlands and protections around wetlands because they're trying to reduce some of the protections around them to basically saying that, like, when it originally was being put through, they were saying that it has to be 10 acres or larger to basically be qualified as a wetland. Well, they've gone back and now said 5, but I mean, if you could see this area, I mean, this is a state that was created from, you know, like glaciers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that, we have water everywhere, and there are pockets sometimes that are only 2 or 3, 4 acres of land that you think about, like all the like game that uses that as a refuge, right? And it could be herons, it could be turtles, it could be, you know, who knows what it could be, right? Ducks. And they use that area. And what it's doing is it's basically changing this to allow it easier for development, right? And to lower the restrictions around what they can use as fill dirt and other things, and you know, and the disruption of the land. So that's one of the ones we're trying to fight right now. But you know, there's been a lot of good work going on though in the state. Next, what is it? On the 20th, we've got Lantani that's coming in.
Okay.
And there's that. Yeah, so he's going to be coming in. There's a pint night that we got going on in Oxford. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go do it because I've got a Boy Scout meeting for my son. So, you know,
family takes precedence.
Yep.
Always.
So I'm getting him involved, you know what I mean, the Cub Scouts and all that stuff. So I've got to, you know, and I'm one of the leaders in the pack, so
Yeah.
I've got to help there too. But yeah, I mean, it's been really good. It's refreshing. What we're trying to do now with the state is, I'm not on the board, but what we're trying to do is divide up the state, kind of in sections, right? Because if you look at it, like, it's really kind of hard. You know, you guys are obviously got a massive state, but
Yeah.
we're, you know, what are we, like the 10th largest state? But, or no, not that big, as population-wise. But it's trying to cover it. Like the UP is way on up there. For me to get up to the UP, right, it's a 7-hour drive to cover that. Versus, well, we've got a couple really good guys in the UP. Okay, they can cover it, right? And then you basically take the lower peninsula and divide it into 4 quadrants. And then it makes it a lot easier where if something pops up, then you've got me and a couple other guys that can step into something in Southeast Michigan. You got some guys in Southwest, Northeast, you know what I mean? To where if we need to show up and do something, we can do it, we can mobilize.
Wow. That's been a big challenge here in Texas as well, just because trying to get as many people who are, you know, active and involved across the state to do things it can be difficult, you know. You know, we got a lot of great people who are working with us and doing things, but like I said, it's just a challenge to get people spread across the state, you know.
It is, and I mean, and a little bit goes a long way, honestly. Like, you know, when you even writing the emails, making the phone calls, right? Those, they take note of that, right? And a lot of times you're going to get probably the canned response, right? but sometimes you may not, right? Because if you keep sending something to the same senator over and over and over again, they're probably going to start getting mindful of, like, what's going on.
What is
you
going
know,
on here,
Yeah, right? Like, why are we getting all these calls? So when you get that email, you know what I mean, that comes out from, like, BHA, whether it's coming from corporate or, you're coming from, like, your local state, click on those links. You know what I mean? Just,
exactly.
Even if it is taking that scripted thing, hit send. You know what I mean? Make a couple phone calls, and they'll listen. You know what I mean? One of the times I called one of the senator's offices, and they were like, "Hey, do you mind if we, like, take your number, and if anything else pops up, would you mind, like, we could consult with you?" I'm like, "Absolutely." You know what I mean? So
that's making
they're
a difference
willing to
right
listen.
there.
Yeah,
sure.
That's you get those guys. That's the goal, right? Is to be a part of their. It's not to beat them up and not to be like, hey, let me tell you exactly what you need to do and how you need to do your job and that you're doing a bad job or whatever. It's the goal would be to be that advisor for those guys who are putting together policy. So I think that's
you just want to be cognizant.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times they don't even know, right? They have no clue, especially like in a state like ours where I grew up in the state of Texas, and public land for me wasn't even something that registered with me. I didn't even know it was something that you could do here until I really got into hunting a couple years ago, and it was like, holy crap, there's a lot out here, and there's a lot of opportunity, and I wanted more opportunity, and trying to get a lease was just ridiculous, and so and I like the challenge of it. That's the thing that I've really become addicted to is that, I like being able to go out into the woods a bunch. I like having to try to figure it out, and it's a lot of fun. Today with ducks, we were, it was a lot of fun. We had a blast.
Yeah, and we did the same thing. Like, goodness, like when I went to college at Arkansas State in Jonesboro, which is that's the Mississippi Flyway, man.
Yeah.
Like we used to get up and go duck hunt before class, and sometimes you'd be sitting out there in the flooded timber, or you'd be sitting in a rice pit, you know what I mean? Doing some of that, and like, man, we just had a blast. You know what I mean? Doing stuff like that, and then now too, it's it was kind of funny. I took a buddy of mine, and he's been kind of afraid of the whole, like, the Orange Army's out to get me, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like there's somebody behind every tree, and they're going to shoot me. And I was like, yeah, well. I picked a spot on the map, and I was like, all right. Now here in Michigan, we're divided up to where you've got like the lower part of the state, which is obviously the most densely populated, is a like shotgun, muzzleloader, straight walled cartridge up to a certain length, right? But if you go above the line, it's a rifle zone. So I'm close enough to where within less than an hour, around an hour, I can be north of that line, right? So I can rifle hunt. And we went out, and man, it was awesome. But like opening weekend, or like that week of opener, we ended up getting some good snow, and which is awesome. Like that's exactly what you want. Like if you can have a good snow on the ground, like I love it, and I love hunting the snow. And we got probably,
what snow?
I don't know, the area we wanted. Yeah, right? Yeah, as we may not even break 40 degrees this whole month, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We did get 3 inches, didn't we, out in West Texas? Like 2.
Lubbock got 10.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy storm moving through. But yeah, we took my buddy. Like I thought that I was like going to be like that poster child thing. I was like, I picked a spot out. As I'm driving in, I'm just like, oh crap, deer camp. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, I've totally screwed us. And I had like 3 or 4 spots picked out. I said, you know what? We're going to go to this one spot that was smaller, right? It was a 500-acre spot bordered on 3 sides by private, right? So I was like, all right. We parked, I did happen to get stuck, and I ran off in the ditch, but, that's a whole other story. But we had to get pulled out. Sucks. My buffer's kind of jacked up now. But anywho, we got in there, and once we finally got in, and it was, like, in the snow, we're able to get back in there. And we probably hiked in, I don't know, 1.5 miles, 2 miles back into this spot. and it was just like, man, there's deer everywhere. And he hasn't got a buck yet, right? Like, this is one of those deals where I'm like, I'm trying to get him a deer.
A little mentoring.
And yeah. So I told him, I was like, all right, man, this is your deal. Like, we're in here to get one for you. And as we're coming in, we get set up. I said, this is where it was kind of like, when a plan, starts coming together, and you're like, I had picked a spot on the map, and I was like, all right, we're going to hike back into here. There's an elevated ridge. Let's get up to that. It looks like there's going to be some good funnels. And sure enough, we popped up, and the back corner, there was cornfields on two of the corners. And man, these deer were just moving in and out of those cornfields. So we popped up when there was 5 or 6 does. So I was like, we just sat for a while. We moved over. And then we're sitting there, and I mean, we're just kind of jabber-jawing. He's like, "What's up? What's over there?" And I'm like looking down, and I'm like got the freezing my hands off, and I've got the Onyx, you know what I mean? Looking, trying to do trying to do the whole thing, and my hands freaking freezing. And I look up, and I see a buck walking right at us. I'm like, "Oh crap! Oh crap!" And I'm like, "There's a buck right there." And he's like, "Oh geez," you know what I mean? And so then it turned, and oh man, he never did get a shot at it, but I threw my binoculars, and it was a decent, little 6-point, but I'm like, hey, it would have been his first buck. And then as I'm doing that, I was like, oh crap. And then I look over my shoulder, and I have a little forking horn come running past me, and it runs out and stops. And I was just like, I could have shot it, but I almost felt bad because I had carried in that 30 Nosler, and I was still using that same ammo that I was using for the elk. And I'm like, you know what? You're just going to get a free pass today. I just almost felt bad.
You get to live to fight another day, killer.
Yeah, let's hopefully you're a solid 5-point next year.
Yeah. Well, if somebody from Texas is going to come to Arkansas,
yep,
or Michigan for that sake,
yeah,
I mean, that's a long drive for somebody to come up, but Arkansas, we'll meet in the middle, right? What would you?
Yeah.
So we want to come hunt Arkansas next year.
Yep.
What's kind of the most slam dunk type? I've got a weekend to come hunt, or maybe 4 days or 5 days. What is the? You can come up here, and in 4 or 5 days, you should be successful if you're. I mean, obviously, you're a relatively decent hunter.
Yeah, I mean, you think probably November 10th to 15th. You know what I mean? Probably somewhere in that time frame. You're going to be seeing rut activity, right?
Okay.
What I would do is I would just you could probably keep it pretty simple. You know what I mean? Get some get your camping gear. You can, if you're in the national forest, you can pretty much camp just about anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of areas where you can find where there's a lot of hiking trails, right? And some of these areas that there's the Ozark Highlands Trail that goes all the way across pretty much that whole top part of the state. There's a lot of other trails. You get on some of those trails. I have actually killed deer just hiking on those trails before. You know what I mean? If you can just kind of use that to navigate, and then there's some 4-wheeler trails and other things too that you could navigate as well to be able to get back in there. Okay. Most folks, it's just kind of like everywhere else, man. They're going to be probably not that far from the road, right? And there are some spots where you can get a mile or two back in there, and you're probably going to have some good success, honestly. And especially if you want to get over into, I mean, I love that Boston Mountain area in northwest Arkansas. Plenty of land. I don't think you're going to be crowded by folks. And then you've got the opportunity there, as well, to do the bear thing. You know what I mean? If one happens to come through. Mm-hmm. And there's if you're wanting to come up just for a 5-day, you can buy a 5-day hunt for I think $180. But if you think you're going to make more than one trip, the $350 gets you the entire year, right? And that's that 6 deer and 2 turkey tag.
Well, that's a hell of a deal. For most people that go out of state to hunt somewhere, with the chance to get an, elk if it comes out into the zone, and getting deer and turkey and all that stuff, that's a fantastic deal for $350.
It really is. If you think about it, I mean, good gosh, what are the elk tags now? I mean, my elk tag last year in Colorado was $650.
Yeah,
right?
It's around somewhere in there.
Yeah, probably in that ballpark. And then I bought the combo tag in Montana, and that was $1,000. You know what I mean? That's a
Oh.
lot of freaking money, man. You know, and I ended up getting a mule deer up there. But yeah, I got a bull in Colorado last year, and then I got a mule deer in Montana. So, you know, it's a lot. You know what I mean? And I think, and that's been the thing too. Like you start playing around with, you know, I try to keep this freezer full, man. You know what I mean? I got 5 mouths to feed in this house, and you know, my wife is like, because I talked about going to Wyoming and doing an antelope hunt, and she's just like, why don't you just go on an elk hunt?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, really?
Okay.
With my arm? And I'm like,
no take backsies.
Yeah. Got it.
yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure you just said that.
Yeah. So speaking of mouths to feed, let me. My next question for you is, what's your favorite wild game recipe to cook?
Oh man. You know, like elk is definitely my favorite game meat.
Okay.
It really is. I can tell you one that I did here recently, and it was pretty dang good. So I ended up saving the tenderloin, right? Because I don't know if I told you, but so like with the CWD thing, you had to wait till there was clearance, basically that says, hey, your meat's CWD free, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as I got that free thing, I was like, you better believe I was cooking. So I thawed out the tenderloins that night, the elk tenderloins, and I ended up doing that. And then I did an apple chutney, and did that with also I put the sweet potatoes. I've got like one of those like Komodo style, you know, like green egg style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I basically put the sweet potatoes in early, and I basically wrap those in foil to where, you know, they're basically like falling apart, and then I will get it up real high, and then I will put the meat on, and I'll sear both sides, and then I'll choke it down, right? So then it gets the good smoke inside. And I just, honestly, that one I did pretty simple. I did some olive oil with kosher salt, some like ground Amish pepper, and I think I did a little bit of a smoked sea salt as well. And man, it just, if there's a place, like, I don't know if they have those around, but like a Spice and Tea Exchange or some of those stores like that, go in there and buy some of that smoked sea salt. That stuff is like amazing for game. So it works. It's really good. So that was probably that one was great. We cooked. We did this at Rendezvous 2 years ago. We ended up getting like third place, but we did like a venison ramen, and one of Jason Meekoff, one of the guys, like, it was his recipe. Man, it was amazing. And we did took like a whitetail backstrap, and they basically cooked it to medium rare off, and then I stuck it in a cooler, let it rest, and we came back, and then we just basically thinly sliced that and basically did a ramen bowl, and it was pretty darn good. Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I love cooking.
Yeah, we're fans of the wild game cooking as well. Austin made us up some barbecue pork from a hog that he shot last year that was off of one of those big nasty. That hog weighed
It was close to 3.
Yeah, like
It's over
280.
250.
Yeah, massive hog.
You know,
Holy crap!
you hear a lot of these guys saying, "Oh, you can't eat those." Like, well,
I love them, man.
That's
I
interesting.
think they taste great.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but all these other guys are
perfectly
looking
fine
for
tonight.
those watermelon-sized ones that are really good, but
It'll all eat.
it'll all eat.
Yeah,
And honestly, too, it's a little leaner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the flavor, man, it doesn't bother me a bit. You know what I mean? The wild hog.
I mean, it didn't even have that was the thing, that didn't have a flavor at all. I mean,
Well,
it was so good.
And I ruined my wife the first time she went out with me, and I shot a hog, and it was one of those big old nasty ones that smell that you get up close to it.
Yeah.
And that's all she ever thinks about whenever I go, I'm going to go shoot a hog and bring some meat home. She goes, no, those things are nasty. Don't you bring me that.
We'll have to, when we do the whole hog, we got to get to Dan's, and I got to shoot 2 hogs.
Again,
So I can, I whole hog one, like, I try to do at least 1 or 2 of them a year, and just whole hog them.
Do you do the cinder blocks and then basically do the whole thing in the wall and then the spit? Is that how you do it?
No, man. We just cut them open, and like just lay them out. I mean, is that I mean, spatchcocking is with a bird, but what is that?
Yeah, I mean they're just flayed out.
Yeah,
and
flayed out,
we
yeah.
have a big
Trailer smoker.
trailer smoker.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what we do, and they turn out great. I mean, I always have I always have a bunch of people from my day job come over, and they're always like, okay, well, what are you feeding us, and I mean, these people were eating it like it was. First of all, it didn't help that it did help that it was we were an hour late for dinner because it just took a little bit longer than it should have. So everybody was like starving. So it was like, all right, it's done. Everybody came outside and was just eating that like right off the like underneath the knife they're sticking their hands. I'm like, all right, guys, you got to just watch your fingers at least,
Oh man.
So
It was good.
it was really good, yeah.
So good.
Well,
What else?
what else do you boys have?
Well, we've been asking you all these questions. Is there anything you would like to bring up? Anything we might have missed? Or
You are getting involved with a rifle company, right?
Yeah. So I actually this year, so I have my FFL now as a manufacturer, and started. It's called Flint Ridge Rifles, and started working with that. And a big goal of this, and actually how we built the entire business plan was around like giving back, right? Because basically it was my goal was like, okay. And I mean, when somebody talks about like a BHAG, you know what I mean, from like business things, but like what is your BHAG? And I basically said, you know what, I want to give back. What would it take to give back like $500,000 to conservation, right? What would that look like? And so for every gun that we sell, 10% of the profits go back into conservation, right? And you get to pay, and the website should be up here in the next couple of weeks, because I was kind of like trying to plan it on like this year's a lot of the R&D stuff, right? Getting everything, testing it, really putting it through, and most likely it'll probably be January is when everything will be up on ready to go from the website. But yeah, I mean, because I've got BHA, Mule Deer Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, TRCP, several others, you know what I mean, that I would be willing to, you pick your organization, you know what I mean, and I'll cut the check to that organization.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
and that's the way I want to build it, right? And one of the taglines that and it was a quote, and I can tell you, we were actually in the Boston Mountains in Northwest Arkansas back one day, and my dad was actually talking about the way he talked about a rifle. And he says, when I buy something like this, and he talks about like wanting to buy a good rifle, and he says, the way I see it is, I'm buying a generational acquisition. You know what I mean? I want to buy something that your kids are going to have.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's what I want to build. You know what I mean? I want to build something that when you put it in your hands, there's confidence and knowing that you could pass it down, right? And you shoot that thing enough, then you know what? I'm pretty sure I'll make you a heck of a deal, and we'll just rebarrel that thing, and you're going to keep right on rolling.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want to keep somebody in it. I mean, they're not cheap, you know what I mean? But yeah. I'm going to work on a kind of like a low, mid, and then a high price point, because I want to be able to get folks into a rifle. You know what I mean? It's something that functions well. So we ended up just getting, actually yesterday we picked up 3 of those Remington 700 long ranges, and I'm going to be working those things over. So we got a couple, I think 1 7 mag and 2 300 Win mags that I'm going to be working over and accurizing and really putting, I'll probably take the triggers off, put better triggers on. I may or may not keep the stocks on them, but, bedding everything, and really I may put some muzzle brakes on these things and, make it something that, you're proud of when you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I like
how far out did you say you were from the website?
Do what now?
How far out did you say you were from the website, getting up and running?
Probably, I would say probably in the next couple weeks, the website's going to be up. I'll let you guys know whenever it
Please
whenever
do.
it goes up. But until then, as folks have been asking, like I've got like my quote sheets built up to where like if somebody says, "Hey, this is what I'm wanting," like I can give you a quote. You know what I mean? On here's what I got, here's what it's going to run. Like I can do that right now because I'm probably going to start working on building some. I told you guys a little bit about that lower part of the state where you've got that straight walled cartridge length. Well, a 450 Bushmaster fits that. So I'm going to start building some 450 Bushmasters on a Remington 700 platform, and basically a gun that I could get about 300 yards out of, because they're not going to be like a short. I'm probably going to end up putting a 20, probably 4-inch barrel on one, because most of the ones you see have got like a 16-inch barrel. Like the Ruger American, that one, and it's got like a muzzle brake that just blasts the crap out of you. I want something that you can be able to shoot without a muzzle brake, and and be comfortable. And it'd make a heck of a hog gun too.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah. I mean, deer, hogs, stuff like that. Because you're probably talking a 225 up to a 275 grain bullet. Like those 275, and I figure I bet I'll be pushing 2,200, 2,300 feet per second on one of those things. Like it's gonna be a hammer on a deer and hog.
That's what you want. Some stopping power.
Yep.
I don't like like tracking things.
No, and and something I'm going to be cognizant of, as things come out more and more is I will work on solutions for like non-lead requirements on what's the most accurate thing I can build up, because I mean if that's something that you want, then I'm going to figure out a way to go after that, because I think we're all going to see that in our lifetime. We're going to see more and more of that come through on the non-lead piece, and we'll see where that goes. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like one of those things that'll be here before we know it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's creeping in.
Yeah.
You just turn around, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, what? I can't do what?
Yeah, I mean it's just something you never even thought about. You know what I mean? And
we
it's
ran into
you know what I mean?
that with you turkey hunting this year, didn't we?
Yeah, it was actually pretty rough. Like I had to find non-lead turkey shot, and it exists, but I didn't know I needed it until I was getting close on it, and I was reading the rules and just saw that little bit of fine print, like non-lead turkey shot, and I ran all over DFW trying to look for it. It was hard to find a non-lead.
Yeah.
That was reasonably priced.
What did you do? Tungsten, or what did you end up using?
I used heavy shot. I don't know what they use.
Steel.
Is it just steel?
Yeah, heavy steel.
Steel.
So
Yeah.
it worked great. I mean, but then it ran into all kinds of weird stuff too. Is like the choke I had claimed that I couldn't run steel through it.
Yeah.
For the turkey, so I had to go find me another
choke.
I would have ran it.
Just seeing what happened.
It's turkey hunting.
What's it gonna do?
You're gonna fire one round. I mean,
not gonna blow up.
If you're a professional turkey hunter or whatever, and you're
some of us fire more than one round,
multiple rounds a day, maybe not that choke.
Yeah.
But if you're turkey hunting and you drew this hunt, or you turkey out once a year, or in Texas we get 2 tags, 3 tags.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're taking 2 shots a year, I don't know. I just wouldn't worry about it. But that's just me.
I've got the same box of ammo on a model 1300 turkey that I've had since
exactly
97.
Yeah,
You know
what I mean?
that's why. That's
It's
why.
I was like, good God.
Yeah, I don't think they want you to take that choke out and duck hunt with it and bang out two boxes of shells before noon one morning.
Yeah, that's why I've got the old 870 Super Mag, and I've got a whole case of 3.5 for shooting geese.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we saw some geese fly over to the house tonight.
Yeah.
You weren't getting those snow possums, were you?
No, we don't see too many of those around here.
Mm-mm.
No, mostly Canadians.
Yeah, that's what these were.
Yeah.
Canadians, and then I've got to get up and I'm doing a sandhill crane hunt this year.
Yeah, we need to get something on the books for that. I want to
Are we
go.
running out of time?
No, until January.
Into January, basically. Yeah.
It's middle of December.
If they legalize it here, you boys need to come up, because they are unbelievable. They're everywhere here.
Yeah.
We'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
We're not afraid
Yeah.
of traveling for some
The
birds.
Texas BHA will fund for the Michigan BHA
Yeah.
Rendezvous.
to put
There we
in
go.
Sandhill.
There we go.
We'll do a swap.
Well, yeah, I like that idea. We'll make it happen.
So
I like
I
that.
can bring guns, and we can go. We can go shoot stuff. Whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
You take us crane hunting up in Michigan. We'll take you pig hunting down in Texas.
There we go. I like that trade.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, you got any final thoughts?
Not much. All I can think about now is bear hunting this property we got in Oklahoma. We picked up some land, 430 acres in southeast Oklahoma, and I don't know how far it is from the Washita Mountains, but Washita, you spell that Q-U-A, not the way it sounds, W-A-S-H, or I don't know, but there's a mountain range that comes through southeast Oklahoma, and it's brought in a healthy bear population in the last decade, and once again, it's just like Arkansas. It sounds like you call in to see what the quota is, and I think up in Oklahoma it's about $600 for the bear. That's
Yeah.
a 3-week season. It's got archery and muzzleload in it, but the property we just picked up had some bear pictures on it, so it's kind of exciting, and kind of talking to you about it. Maybe we'll get back in touch again about tactics, because all I know now is that they tear the hell out of everything, and it seems like no one wants them, but they seem fun enough to hunt. So
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I want to eat some
I want to bow hunt a bear.
like a man,
Yeah,
because you are a man.
maybe knife it.
Dude.
Yeah, you guys ever watch Clay Newcomb? He's in Northwest Arkansas Bear Hunter magazine,
Yeah.
and he shot one last year with the recurve. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah, that guy, like, shooting from the ground
Yeah,
with a trad bow on a black bear,
I'm down with that.
brass balls on that kid.
And then goes the next day and kills one in Oklahoma.
That's
I'm like,
right.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah, you guys got a good group up there. You know, that little Arkansas crew, that Southwest chapter of BHA is Joseph and Clay, and I mean, there's a handful of guys out there that are just definite badasses. You know.
Oh yeah.
So-
There's, it's something to fight for. You know what I mean? I think that's what
Absolutely.
we all got to do, man.
Absolutely. Well, man, Jared, we can't thank you enough for joining, and we look forward to seeing your website come out in the next couple weeks and checking out some rifles and get down here and let's hunt some hogs together.
Let's do it, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, is there anything you want to
Absolutely.
plug, like any social media that you got?
Yeah,
real
where would
fast?
we find you at social media?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So if you look, Midwest Mountain Hunter is where I'm usually doing a lot of my hunt stuff, and it's Midwest MTN Hunter. Rifles, it's Flint Ridge Rifles is the rifle company. That Instagram's already up, and then and on YouTube, Midwest Mountain Hunter. That's where I put up some of my hunt stuff. I do like my gear reviews and whatnot, and I've kind of got the website geared around people that are going out west for the first time. What does that look like, and what do they need to do? That was something that I started, I don't know, probably working on back 2015, 2016. You know what I mean? I'm putting that together. So I try to update where I can. You know what I mean? I've been lagging a little bit. I've got to work on getting some of that stuff updated. But when these cold months actually are a good time to work on videos and get things rolling.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing that, because it'll be my first Western hunt this January. So
Yeah.
fall right in line.
I think you're going to do good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Good.
Well, thank you
Well,
very much
Bud,
for
yeah.
joining us, and we will. I'm sure we'll talk to you again really soon.
Yep.
Absolutely. You boys have a good one.
Thank you
You too,
very
buddy.
much, Jared.
Jared.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.